Hey everyone, Zion over here from Nintendo Life, and today we're here to share with you our review of Emio the Smiling Man, Famicom Detective Club on the Nintendo Switch. Now, this review was originally written by PJ O'Reilly for NintendoLife.com, but was reworked into this video by me. Has there ever been a slasher film that's used elevator music successfully as its entire soundtrack? It almost seems like there may be something tonally mismatched about that kind of idea, unless you're going for comedy. And honestly, when playing Emio the Smiling Man, it sometimes is tough to know whether we're supposed to be laughing or crying with fear in our seats. This brand new entry in the Famicom Detective Club Adventure series has managed to receive more fanfare and interest than a visual novel traditionally would. A genre, while still fun, hasn't really ever set the world on fire, save for something like Doki Doki Literature Club. Some of us old-timers have sampled the original Famicom Detective Club games via fan translations and enjoyed them for what they were back in the day, but whilst the 2021 remakes are nice to have, it's hard to say they are an absolute must-play. Even while recognizing their importance, especially in terms of the influence they had on the likes of the Ace Attorney series. There's obviously a cultural aspect to this. These are traditionally styled games. They adhere to a format that is hugely popular in Japan, where the slow pace and often frustrating mechanics are part of the deal. And if you're a fan of this stuff, then you'll likely know what you're getting into with Emio the Smiling Man. The oddball mismatch of tones, combining cartoonish visuals, supermarket tannoy music, and child murder has been a running theme in these games, and it continues in this new entry. All of this brings us to the biggest issue that we have with Emio. It rode in on a wave of potential terror that it just doesn't justify. This is resolutely a Famicom Detective Club game. Forget all the Bloober Team nonsense and any other rumors of a huge shift in tone to something much darker. The originals earned 16+ ratings for their stories, and this one pushes the boat out just a little bit further, with references to murdered teens, some disturbing imagery when Emio is on screen, and an unsettling and rather icky vibe to the odd character here and there. We can see why it technically got itself that scary, mature rating, but we personally didn't find anything particularly frightening during our playthrough either, even with how unsettling it is at times. This isn't usually an issue, as we know what to expect with Famicom Detective Club, and this one is definitely the darkest of the bunch. But having had our hopes raised for something truly terrifying, it takes a little time to settle down and enjoy what is still a really well-written and intriguing mystery, albeit one that's very hard to see as an adults-only affair overall. We won't give away any of the later game juicy details, and there's a demo on the eShop to try out with 3 full chapters if you're really intrigued. But this new entry continues directly on from its predecessors, reintroducing the same main characters from the Utsugi Detective Agency. This time, you even get to play as Ayumi Tachibana in select chapters, and they'll be investigating the bizarre murder of Isuke Sasaki, a 15-year-old who's been found dead with a smiley-face bag over his head. It's a murder that bears a worrying resemblance to a batch of killings from 2 decades prior, as well as seeming to copycat the style of the urban legend Emio. From this premise, we set about traveling to question persons of interest and look for any clues. If you've played the recent remakes or Ace Attorney, you'll know the general gist here as you slowly pick through a bunch of options relating to how you proceed to quiz people. The writing, which is quite excellent throughout, does a lot of easing our frustrations during these sequences, which, irritatingly, still refuse to blank out or signify conversational branches which have already been used up. For some, this is going to be the true horror at play here. Questioning folk, or even having a simple conversation, involves so much guessing and stopping and clicking on options just to see if they've been played out already or not. It makes for sequences that feel artificially lengthened, and the first 4 or 5 hours of the game, which is, quite a lot of time, suffers from this sludgy pace. Nothing of real note occurs for too long early on, and the conversations and lack of movement or urgency can become a little tiresome. It's annoying, too, that there's no definitive way of being clever about how you work. There's no way to figure out the right option beforehand, to have the conversation flow naturally because you're being smart. So it often turns into a guessing game, trolling through menus, trying to use a phone that's out of charge, trying to yell out for characters who just aren't there, and repeatedly attempting to travel because the character has just given up responding to any other options, it seems. Then you realize suddenly that you had to do something seemingly silly, like studying their face to move things along. It's tedious at times, it just really is. And yet, it's hard to stay mad for long because it's all so very odd, strange, and enjoyable despite the lack of huge scares, and even despite the frustrations of your simplistic investigative techniques. There's a really strong cast of characters to engage with here. The writing is often quite amusing, and doing things like staring at a person's crotch as you study them in order to elicit a cheeky "my eyes are up here" response adds a playful dimension that's hard to not appreciate, and probably something that wouldn't have worked out with a lower age rating either. You've got a great line of pervy school teachers, weirdos, and other characters who are presented with real skill, and they really get under your skin thanks to some lovely animation and voice acting, which is Japanese only once again, we're afraid. This makes for sequences of questions that, while annoying for the reasons we've already noted, still raise plenty of smiles, as well as leading you off in wrong directions and having you mistrust or suspect a whole bunch of folk before beginning to hone in on the actual answers to the mystery. The art style is similarly impressive. The remakes were lovely upgrades to the 8-bit originals in this regard, and this continues in Emio with some wonderfully evocative backdrops and characters who move around and express emotions clearly, as well as some appropriately disturbing Emio imagery. Emio the Smiling Man certainly could have been more had we got a few quality of life changes, and had it lived up to pre-release hype that suggested a whole new era of darkness and terror was about to descend on Nintendo HQ. We also just have to admit a certain amount of surprise at just how similarly everything plays in relation to the 2021 remakes. There's been no seizing the opportunity to change anything at all beyond the player character now speaking, which can also be turned off in the menus if you just don't like it. And even though this game is set in Japan, the fact that there is no English voice work hurts a little. And while all this makes sense with these traditional styled offerings, we can't help but think some streamlining and refinements could have been added to give you a less frustrating time during your investigations. It would have been a quick and easy way to nab another point out of us on the review score. In terms of performance, and as expected given the genre, everything runs beautifully here, whether you're in docked or handheld mode. We were surprised once again to see too that there are no touch controls either. So overall, Emio the Smiling Man Famicom Detective Club is probably PJ's favorite of the series, with the original, Girl Who Stands Behind, taking second place for those that are interested. There's an intriguing and stylish mystery here, and the writing and characters will keep anyone more than interested for the duration of the story. It's just a shame there isn't a little more modernization or refinement mechanically to make for a smoother experience. That being said, series fans probably won't mind that though anyways. Emio the Smiling Man Famicom Detective Club has been hyped up a little too much in terms of how dark in tone the whole thing is. This is still silly, kooky stuff, just like its predecessors. The sometimes frustrating core mechanics also haven't seen any refinement this time around, which is a shame. And so it's left to some top-notch writing to save the day, which it just about does. Once this troubling and intriguing story has its hooks in you, it's hard to put down. And that, at the end of the day, is all Famicom Detective Club fans will be looking for. We here at Nintendo Life give Emio the Smiling Man Famicom Detective Club on the Nintendo Switch a 7 out of 10. Be sure to let us know in the comments down below if you've given Emio a shot yourself yet. Maybe you've downloaded the demo or you've bought the full game. And if not, let us know if you're going to. And of course, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this, then why don't you smile upon that subscribe button and then ring that notification bell to be notified whenever we put up new videos. And if you're looking for more Famicom Detective Club coverage, you can still check out our original reviews of the remakes from back in 2021. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Zion from Nintendo Life. Stay safe out there, and we will see you all next time.